Yes, brother. It's been started, so you can go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, very good morning, all. So let's continue with identity and access management today. I gave you an intro to identity and access management yesterday, and I said that IAM is the pillar for AWS with respect to securing the resources within AWS, right, and securing access to uh, the AWS components or AWS resources or services. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dive a little more deeper into certain aspects of IAM, right? And then especially on the authentication part, I'm just going to share my screen. And for the majority portion of today's session, I'm going to show you how to configure users, how to configure roles, how to create policies from the console. But before that, let me just share something with you. Okay, authentication, right? I mean, what is authentication? Authentication is a way to authenticate somebody, some user, or some person or some identity uh, into the system, correct? That's what an authentication means, right? So identity. What is identity? Identity is something which can I mean, it could be a person, it could be a system, it could be a automation platform, it could be a robot, or it could be anything, right? So that's called an identity. Identity is one who logs in to the system with an identity, right? So from that perspective, let's get started with authentication, right? So now, as I said yesterday, IAM allows us to authenticate and authorize any functions within AWS, right? Okay, so what is authentication? Authentication will essentially contain two things. One is the username and password, right? So all of you have got a root account or IAM credentials given to you. It has a username and a password, correct? So you need to provide these two to authenticate yourself with AWS console. So now username or password is required for two, right? One is for console access, and also you can go ahead and set up a IAM password policy. And also, if you are doing any API functions using CLI, command line interface, or you're using a Python script to automate certain things, so then also you need a username and password, right? But there are alternatives to that. I'll come back to that later. Okay, so now if you see, there's something called password policy within IAM. Okay, I'm going to show you all of this shortly, when we get back to the console. But what you see is basically the restrictions that you can set with respect to password, right? I mean, you can actually enforce your users to um, use a very complex password so that it is quite difficult to compromise, and it's quite difficult to break that password, right? So that's where, if you see, requires at least one uppercase, one lowercase, at least one number, one alphanumeric character, such as a special character, allow users to change their own password, enable password expiration after 30 days, okay, prevent password reuse, 10 passwords cannot be reused. Okay, so now if you see, these are all certain password, uh, policies that can be enforced within IAM, right? So that way, when you know that you have to administer your AWS account, and when you have to create new users and onboard new users, you know that you follow these, and you can pick and choose whatever you want based on your company's password policies. And there's something called access key as well. There are two things, right? As I said, there are two ways to authenticate. One is using a username password. The other one is using a access key, right? Again, access key is used for CLI or API access. CLI is command line interface. API is application programming interface, where you use programs and you use the SDK to use your APIs and perform functions using API. So, which is for integrating with other systems, or integrating with your automation tools, integrating with Terraform, right? I mean, that's when you need access key. Now, again, when you generate an access key, you generate an access key for a specific IAM user or for a specific user, right? So from that perspective, it basically has two things. It's a key value pair. The first is called access key ID, which will look like something like this. Then you have something called secret key, which looks something like this. Right? It's a secret key. So now this is equivalent to your username and password. Okay, but you don't use your username and password in your CLI or API. You need to use something called access key. Okay, it's very, very important. You need to understand the difference between these two. Username and password is only used for console access. Okay, only to log into the console, you need username and password. If you need to use command line interface or APIs, your username password won't work there. You need to generate something called access keys. Okay. So when you create an access key, it's like your key pair in EC2, right? So login key pair in EC2, where you create once, it allows you to download that only once, right? It doesn't allow you to download the second time. Similarly, here also, uh, it allows you to download the key pair or the access key and secret key only once from the AWS console at the time of creating an access key for a specific user. After that, if you lose it, you lose it. You have to generate a new key pair. Okay, because AWS doesn't store that private key anywhere. Okay, that's the whole beauty of it, right? Because AWS can't take or can't use that to perform actions on your behalf, right? Because of the shared responsibility model that AWS has, where AWS cannot have access to your data or your resources. AWS can only manage their infrastructure, underlying infrastructure components. That's why it's always good to keep that shared responsibility model handy, right? Keep it handy so that whenever you have doubts, you can always look at the shared responsibility model and look at those. Multi-factor authentication. We did multi-factor authentication demo yesterday, right? And I hope all of you were able to set up multi-factor authentication in your respective accounts. If not, please do it. Okay, so I'm sorry, just give me a second.
Yeah. So there are three types of multi-factor authentication. So one is through a virtual, like a virtual MFA that we did yesterday from your mobile device, where in your mobile device you have a virtual MFA like Google Authenticator or anything else. You can use that to authenticate, and which will keep generating this 6-digit PIN, correct? So it will keep generating that. You can use that, or you can also use a token like this, a hardware token like this. It's called a Gemalto token. Okay, it's a virtual device. Okay, so again, even in the token, you see this display. You see the small display that is there. The token. See, this is the size of a very small keychain. This is the size. Yeah, sorry. So you have a Gemalto token where it's very similar to the Google Authenticator that you did, right? Where it keeps generating a random PIN every 1 minute, right? And when you're logging in, at the time of logging in, the PIN, whatever is generated, the random PIN which is generated, you use that to authenticate as an additional authentication, right? So similarly here also, you will see that display will keep changing here, right? And this token will be given. It's like a small, you can use it as a keychain, right? You can actually attach it to your keychain. Okay, that's also another way. So now usually what enterprises do is they buy a few of these. Okay, you can buy these. You can associate it with your AWS account, and without this token, without this physical token, you won't be able to log into your AWS account. Correct. So what they do is to secure the root user. Okay, to secure the root, because as I said, The root account is invincible. It can do anything. Okay, it's like God power. So your root account, usually there will be a multi-factor authentication enabled, which has a hardware token like this. And this hardware token is securely kept in a safe so that nobody can access it. So whenever the administrators or somebody would like to log into the root account, or any elevated user privilege has to log into, because there are certain functions that you can do from only from root account. Okay, in such cases, if somebody has to log into the root account, they raise a request to get the token from the safe, and then it goes through an approval process. It gets approved, and justification is sought as to why somebody would need access to the root user, and then they go ahead and get this sorted out. They get this from the safe and do it. Just give me a second. Yeah, okay. So that's when you have the multi-factor authentication, and there's something called YubiKey as well. Again, YubiKey is like, it's a hardware based where you insert it into your USB slot, and that generates it works on a capacitive touch. So you have to touch that, then it basically generates a random code, and you use that random code as the multi-factor second factor authentication. Okay, so when do you have to use keys or password, right? So it depends on how your users will access AWS. So now if your users are going to use console, then you need password. But if your users are going to use Terraform or Chef or any other CLI SDK APIs, then you need access keys. Their password won't work. Okay, so either ways, you have to rotate your credentials regularly, right? Like the general practice is any username password, right? Any password has to be recycled every once in 30 days or 45 days, correct? So similarly, those best practices apply here also, where you rotate your passwords and you rotate your access keys every once in whatever 30 days, 45 days, as per your company's policy. Authorization. What is authorization? Once you log in, then what actions you can perform, right? Who can access the AWS resources? What action can be performed on those AWS resources? How is it done? Organized in policies. That's all organized in the policies. Okay. So that's where, if you see, you have your authorization where it gives you permissions to specify. Okay. So then comes, so I'll just give a simple example of authorization. You have identity-based authorizations and resource-based authorizations, where you have a user brain who can read, write, and list on, let's say, EC2. You have group admins who can read, write, and list on multiple resources like EC2, S3, DynamoDB, and things like that. You have a group of developers who can read and list. They can write, right, on resources Y and Z. Okay, so now this is basically a identity-based permissions where you are assigning a authorization to an user. Okay, like user brand, group admins, group developers, and things like that. Okay, and it's like CRUD operations, right? How many of you know about CRUD operations? A lot of you must be, because whoever has built applications or done some programs, Java programs, done some Spring Boot programs, you must be knowing what a CRUD operation means. Okay, CRUD operation is create, read, update, and delete. Okay, like these are the 4 operations that you can perform, right? In any in any application, or in any application that involves an OLTP, online transaction processing system, where you have a database and you have some application which is basically front ending the database, right? And you're providing some functions to the end users. What will the end users do at the end of the day? Either they create new records, or they read the existing records, or they update the existing records, or they delete the records, right? It's called CRUD, CRUD, right? The same thing applies here also, right? Where you have read, write, list, okay? All and delete also. When you say write, it means that update and delete. Read is read. List is you can list. Again, it's a part of read only. Okay, again, resource-based permissions is where you have a resource X. Like, for example, you have an EC2 instance, and EC2 instance has got an ID, correct? I hyphen some characters. You can, on a specific resource, you can give Brian a set of permissions, admins a set of permissions, developers a set of permissions, right? So similarly, you can give on resource Z, which is probably VPC, correct? You can give admins a set of permissions, developers a set of permissions. So that's how you have identity-based permissions and resource-based permissions. Okay. Again, authorization on identity-based permissions. There are built-in policies that you can use, and they're all attached to an IAM user or a group or a role. Okay. And in IAM, you have, as I said yesterday, there are three things: users, groups, or a role. Correct? User is an user. Group is, it'll be a group of users. Like you can have a developer as a group, correct? And you can actually go ahead and you add all the developers to that group. I also gave another analogy where group is created called developers, and developers have certain privileges, and suddenly the founder would want to change the privileges of a startup. He is going ahead and changing it, applying it at a group level. Again, enable you to specify what that user, group, or role can do. And the user-based policies, it can be either managed or inline. I'm going to explain all of this. Just hang on for a while. And authorization has got identity-based permissions. It has got two different policies. One is managed policies and inline policies. Again, in managed policies, you have two types of policies. One is AWS managed policies or a customer managed policies. Okay. So now AWS managed policies are a set of policies that AWS comes out of the box with. Okay. AWS comes out of the box as to what those policies can do. Okay. Like administrator, right? Administrator is an inbuilt policy which gives somebody an full access, right? Similarly, EC2 full access, S3 full access. Some of these are written by AWS for the benefit of consumers or for benefit of users, so that users don't have to write these policies. So they can just pick and choose. They can start using these policies out of the box. Similarly, customer managed policies are something that you write your own policy, right? For you to very granularly manage your AWS account. Okay, so you can go ahead and write your own policies where you feel that you need so and so customization to the policies, and you need so and so granular way of managing your policies. You can go ahead and write your own policies where you say that, okay, I've got different types of roles. I've got these many, types of functions. So now I will write my own policies, right? If you write your own policies, I mean, it's you have to manage it. Whereas if in AWS case, AWS has given a bunch of policies, and AWS can change those policies anytime. Okay, so and so that caveat is something that all of us have to remember. And there's something called inline policies, right? So when you create a user, group, or a role, you can also type an inline policy where those don't go into the policy bucket, but policy repository, but it's part of the inline. It's associated with that user, role, or group, right? And it's like disposable or temporary, where you're just creating it temporarily for a time being, and you don't need to go out and create a new policy for it, but you will just attach that policy in line, where you just write that policy in line. Okay. And versioning, you can track changes, and it enables rollback of policies, and also you can keep up to 5 versions of the policies, just in case you make some changes to the policies and you realize that it's breaking your production system, and your users are complaining about not able to access certain things, or you have given too much of permissions to users who's actually misusing the system. You can immediately revert it back to the previous version. You roll it back to the previous version. Okay. Again, resource-based permissions are built-in policies, and they are attached to a resource, and they are primarily available for the following resources, such as S3 buckets, glaciers, SNS topics, SQS queues, VPC endpoints, AWS key management service, encryption keys, right? And again, here it specifies who has access to the resource and what actions they can perform on it. Okay, and you can also have resource-based policies inline only here. Okay, let's get to the actual thing. I'm just going to go. Okay, I told you about ARN yesterday. What is ARN? Amazon resource name. That's a unique name that is given to every resource using this nomenclature. Okay, ARN, partition, service, region, account ID, and resource. Okay, partition is AWS will be the name for standard regions, because AWS also has got, so AWS has got two types of regions, right? So one is the standard regions, which can be accessed publicly by anybody, right? Once you have an account, you can just go use your account to log into that standard region and start provisioning resources such as Mumbai, Singapore, North Virginia, Ohio, Oregon, and London, and all these places. But there's also something called special regions, which like GovCloud. Okay, in US you have GovCloud, where government workloads, US government workloads are actually present in that GovCloud. Okay, because government also needs capacity, and government maintains their own data centers. But if certain government departments are allowed to use cloud, like public sector, right? Public sector and government, if they want to make use of cloud, I mean, that region is specifically for only government and public sector, right? So that's called GovCloud. So that's the thing. And services, whatever EC2, VPC, region, what is the region? Account ID, your account ID, and then your resource string, it goes there. Yeah. So if you see, for example, security group, right? This is basically a ARN for security group. ARN : AWS : EC2 : U West 2 : account ID : security -group / SG - whatever. Okay, that's the way your security group is represented as an ARN. That's a unique ARN. Okay, it's unique. There won't be another ARN like this anywhere, which is very unique. Similarly, you have subnet. ARN, AWS EC2, EU West 2, account ID, subnet. Yeah, load balancer, AWS, ARN, AWS Elastic Load Balancing, EU West 2, account ID, load balancer, whatever load balancer that you create. EC2 instance, right? So this is common. ARN, AWS EC2, EU West 2, account ID, instance / instance ID. Okay, so whenever, so what is a principal, right? A principal is nothing but the identity which is trying to access the AWS resource. Okay, that is called principal. Okay, always remember that. The identity which is trying to access the AWS account or the AWS resource that is currently given access here. Okay, so always remember the word principal means, the term principal means the identity, okay, who is trying to access. Okay, so the principal can be multiple things, right? It can be an individual user where you have Shiva, right? Shiva is the username, right? And you can actually give the username, user / username, and which account that user belongs to. Okay, and then you can actually give that individual IAM user, or it can be everybody. You can grant access to anybody and everybody. *** principal : AWS : ***. That means anonymous users. Anybody can access it. If you want to give specific account or accounts, you give principal. Again, this is JSON format. Okay, principal : curly braces, double quotes, AWS : double quotes, ARN. You give the ARN. Okay, ARN will have your account ID, and root means That's the root account of your account. That's the root user of your account. Okay. Then federated users, like AWS also allows federation with other web identities such as Amazon.com, Facebook.com, Google.com, right? Where you have your account in Google.com, you can actually federate with your Google accounts. I mean, you must have seen that, a lot of websites and a lot of services online allows you to do a single sign-on with Google, right? Where they ask you to log in with your Google's credentials. Okay, so now that is also possible where you give the federation out here, right? Or you can give a specific role. Only a role belonging to this particular account can be the principal out here, or a specific service. Principal can also be a service where it can be EC2 service, it can be S3 service, it can be DynamoDB. And then you have something called actions. Actions are nothing but what action you can perform. All right, I'll give you a simple example, right? So where you have an okay, so you have a bank account. Okay, you have an online account, and you can perform actions online, correct? So now say for example, a bank is basically giving you an ability to create some username password for other people as well on your account, right? So in that case, if at all they give you that privilege, you want to specify what others can do, right, on your account, right? Maybe you're sharing your account with somebody, with your friend, and you may want to basically set a limit to your friend, saying that your friend can actually transfer only 1,000 rupees. Okay, or a friend can actually transfer to only certain accounts. He won't be able to do everything, right? So that way, you have authorization actions where you say that everything that you do on AWS, right, is an action, correct? And I'll go to my AWS account. So everything that you do, right? I mean, I'm just clicking on this, right? I'm just clicking on the home page. This is actually an action that I'm performing, right? So then I'm actually clicking on EC2. Behind the scenes, what happens is it goes as a API call. It talks to the console service. It gets all of this data, right? Whereas it tells me how many instances are there, how many key pairs I have, how many security groups I have, right? And all of that, right? I mean, if I click on AMIs, again, this is also an action where I'm listing the images. I'm listing the images, the public images. It has to fetch the data and give it, correct? So now everything is an action in AWS, right? So that way, start instance is an action, stop instance is an action, create an instance is an action, provision an instance is an action. Everything, there are like thousands and thousands of actions that can be possible on AWS. Everything is an action, correct? Change password is an action, get object is an action. So every service has got a list of actions. In fact, if you want to see what those actions are, just go Google for it. You'll get the latest public documentation as usual. AWS IAM actions list. Yeah, so just go to this latest user guide. Yeah, see, all these are AWS services. It's like so many services are available, right? For example, here I want to go to Elastic Compute Cloud, which is EC2, Amazon EC2. I click on EC2. Okay, and yeah, you also sometimes get a small tip like this, because this page is moving out to a new latest reference. I can actually see the latest one. Yeah, if you see actions, see, these are all the actions. See this? Actions, description, access level, resource types, condition keys, dependent actions, right? Access level is right. See, so many actions. Only for EC2, how many actions are there? Can you just, yeah, I don't know. There's so many actions. There are probably 200, 300 actions available for just for EC2. If you see this. Okay, so this way, and similarly, every other service has got like actions available for it. See, this is like for Elastic Load Balancer. So many actions are available. Okay, and similarly, S3 will have so many actions. Okay, so anyways, so that's basically the actions, and let's move to the next slide. Okay, so if you see this here in this case, I'm actually writing a policy that says allow not action and resource. Okay, resources star allow not action and resources star. Okay, and here allow action and resource. Okay, and you're basically denying an action is IAM. 1 second, please. Yeah. So you have something called not action, and you have something called action, and you have effect as allow or deny. Okay, you can explicitly deny an action to be performed. Okay, that is also possible. We are going to see, a difference between all of this. Okay, you can we'll come back to this. Probably this could be slightly confusing, but let's just go ahead and let's go back to the console. Okay, I've gone to my IAM, right? And IAM, this is the home page of my IAM, right? And where you get to see so many things. I mean, this is basically the sign-in URL for IAM users. So by default, your sign-in URL will have your account number, but you can also modify that. You can edit that. Okay, I've just given SSSRPL as the sign-in URL. So this will be a standard URL. You don't have to remember that whatever 12-digit or 16-digit account number. Okay, you just need to, you can give your name here. I mean, if it is available, it will give you. Otherwise, if it's not available, you can append it with some characters or numbers or whatever it is. Okay, you can also do that here. It will be easy for you to log into your EC2 or log into your AWS account. Like in this case, I'll just say sssrpl.signin.aws.amazon.com. It will directly take me there. And then you have users, groups, roles, customer managed policies, and identity providers. Forget about identity providers for now. Look at these 4 things. They are very important: users, groups, customer managed policies, and roles. Okay, let's go into each and everything. Okay, let's first go into users. Yeah, so in users, after I created my account, I'm not logging in as a root user. Okay, if you're logging in as a root user, it means that you're basically using the root email ID and root password, which is like giving you God power. Okay, it's basically a God power. You can do anything with it, but I don't want to do that. So I've added a new user called RPL admin. Okay, and I've attached a few permissions to it, such as administrator access, organizations full access, billing full access. Okay, and I've not created a group. Okay, let me add a tag here. Name RPL admin. Okay, I've just added a tag, and it also has a security credentials where I have enabled MFA for this IAM user also, right? So when I log out and log in, it will actually ask me to do an MFA. Okay, it will ask me to for my Google Authenticator passcode or any other types of MFA. And then access key is where if I have to log into, if I have to use CLI or API, I mean, this is the access key that I will use. And I have a secret key for this. I've downloaded it and kept it earlier. But remember, once you create an access key, you can download the that password or secret key for that only once. After that, see, right now I created this probably on 15th or probably 15 days back, right? 20 days back I created this, but I can't view the password now because I can only make it inactive or delete it. If I lose that, I won't be able to retrieve it back. Then you have certain things for SSH keys for code commit, Git credentials, and so on and so forth. Okay, like if you're using Git and you need your account to be you need your Git to access your account for pushing code or for pushing things and for making API calls, you can do that. Okay, so now this is how these are the users, and you can create new users. I'll come back to that. Then you have groups. You can create a new group. Let me just create a group called RPL administrator. Next step, and you can attach a policy to your group, right? So where you can say that okay, you can attach a policy. It can either be administrator access or any of these, right? If you see, these are all Amazon managed policies. There are 598 such policies that are there. Okay, 598 policies where they're all Amazon managed policies. Okay, where these are so many policies that Amazon has written. Okay, which you can use straight away. Like you want to give S3 full access, you can do that. Or you can just search for full. You get so many services which has got full access, right? You can give those, or you can specifically look at what actions you want to give in a granular way so that you can give only those access to that. But for now, I'm just giving administrator access. Okay, I'm just creating a group. Yeah, I've created a group. Okay, and in fact, I can just go to the group and I can, add users to the group. I can do that, but I'll come back and do that. We'll create a new user and add it to the group. Okay, then you have roles. Okay, roles are nothing but it is a set of functions that a user or a group can perform. At the end of the day, it's a user, right? Anything. It's a user, or it is a either the user is coming through the console using his username password, or the user is coming through CLI or SDK. Okay, so now, but at the end of the day, there is a principal which is actually doing some action, right? So now what you can do is you can actually associate a principal to a role. You can also create a role, right? And you can associate that role with certain users as well. So that way, you are creating a role like developers, right? And you're giving permissions to whatever you want in a granular fashion to the developers. And then you can associate that developer role to an IAM user. Okay, so now that's what a role means. So now by default, I think there'll be one role which is there. I mean, forget about these two roles. I think this role, yeah, this is AWS role for support, service role for support. If I just open that, you will see that that also has a permission, right? If you see, it has a permission. Yeah, so if you see, you click on JSON, this is the permission that the support role has. Support service policy. Anyways, we'll go back. We'll just take it step by step. First, let's go to users. Okay, so now we can actually create a new user. Okay, I'm just going to create a new user. I'm just going to say, I'm just going to say sysadmin. Sysadmin is the user that I'm going to create. Okay, it can be. So I'm just saying it as sysadmin. So when you say sysadmin, it can be anything. It can be your name also. That's not a problem. It can be any string that you can give there. Then out here, you can select the access type, whether you want to give console access to this user, which means you will have a password to log into console. or it can just be a programmatic access where you just get only an access key and secret key to access AWS APIs, CLIs, SDK, and other development tools. Okay, so these are the two things that are possible. Either it can be a console access and programmatic, or one of these. If you select console access, you'll be asked to give a password for it. Okay, if you only give programmatic access, where you say that only a CLI or an SDK can access it. Okay, user cannot log into the console. The console means what we are currently seeing, right? They won't be able to log into the user interface of AWS. Then you go only for programmatic access. But if you want the user to have console access, you can select console, but you have to give a password. Okay, password can be a complex password. Okay, again, I'll come back to this. Let's come back to this. But if you actually go down, right, and if you say account settings, you can set something called password policy here in account settings. You can hit on the set password policy, and you can actually go ahead and give requires at least one uppercase, one lowercase, at least one number, at least one alphanumeric character. Enable password expiration after 90 days or 120 days or whatever it is. Allow users to change their own password. Prevent password reuse. Last 5 passwords or last 10 passwords can't be reused. Okay, you're enforcing that so that AWS remembers those passwords, and if you're trying to reuse your past 5 or 10 passwords, it does not allow you to reuse. Okay, you can set all these policies. Okay, and you can basically check that. But right now, I'm not going to set all the policies. But you can try that, and you can. Yeah, I'm just going to set one uppercase and one lowercase, and one number, and one alphanumeric character. Okay, these are the 4 things that I'm going to set. Okay, minimum 8 characters, one uppercase, one lowercase, one number, one special character from these. Okay, I'll just go and save changes. Yeah, I've saved the changes. Okay, and then you have something called endpoints. Forget about that STS for now. Okay, so we'll just come back to this at a later point in time. I'm going to go to my users. I'll just add an user. I'll just say sysadmin. I'm going to give programmatic access. I'm also going to give console access. I will just select a custom password, right? I'm just going to say that's going to be my password. Okay, so I'll just okay, this is my password. It actually meets the password requirements, right? Because it's minimum 8 characters. It has lowercase, uppercase. It has alphanumeric. I've got a number here. Instead of O, I have a 0. And then I have a special character at the rate. It's hard password, right? I'm just giving something like this. Okay, hard password is the password that I've given. And you can also check this requires password reset next time. I'm just going to uncheck it, because next time when the user logs in, he'll be forced to change this password once again. If you want, you can do that, right? If you're an administrator, you should do that. You give a temporary password to the user and allow the user to change his password the next time when he logs in. Okay, that's again a best practice also. Okay, so now let me just go next to permissions. So if you remember, we have created a group, right, called RPL administrator, which has got administrator access to it. I'm just going to select that. Either I can do that, or I can copy permissions from an existing user. Like, for example, there are 2 developers working as part of my team. I have a 3rd developer. I've recruited a 3rd developer, and I want to give the same permissions that I've given to my 2 developers. I can also do that, or I can create a group called developer, assign the permissions to the group, and I can add the user to that group so that it inherits the permissions that the group has to the developer also. It's an inheritance, basically. We studied about inheritance in our object-oriented programming concepts, correct? So it inherits it. Or you can attach policies directly, right? If you remember, I showed you about those 500 plus Amazon managed policies, or you can also create your own policy and you can attach those policies directly out here to the user, to the IAM user. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and add it to the group that I created. Okay. And then I'll say next tag, name sysadmin user. I'll just say next review. Okay. So now we are ready to create the user. Okay. Permission summary group. It belongs to administrator group, RPL administrator group. Say create user. Yeah, it's going to create this user. So you get the small box which says success. You've successfully created the user. You can view and download user security credentials. You can also email users instructions for signing into the AWS Management Console. This is the last time these credentials will be available to download. However, you can create new credentials at any time. Read this. This is very, very important. This is the last time these credentials will be available to download. Okay, you can download it only once right now, but this is the only opportunity you have to download. If you lose this opportunity, if you navigate away from this, or if you close this page, you will never be able to come back and download it, because there's no option. AWS does not give any option to download it. And you can see that there is an access key and there's a secret key. This is the secret access key. Okay, this is the access key ID. Okay, anyways, I'm just showing it. This will be deleted after this session. Okay, so nobody will be able to log in using this access key and secret key. Okay, so now I'm just going to click on download CSV. Yeah, so this is what you get, right? And then you can use this. You have to store it in a secret place so that you have the access key and secret key stored in a very safe place, and you'll be able to use it whenever you're automating, whenever you're using CLI or SDK. And password will not be shown here, but you can remember your password or store it in a very, very secure place. Okay, so now this is the only opportunity you get to download this. Okay, I'll just close this. So it's created. So now if you just click on this, and again, you go to security credentials. If you see, you have an access key assigned to this. This is the access key ID, but it doesn't show you the secret key. It shows only the access key. It doesn't show the secret key. Okay. Now, if you have lost that secret key, then you have lost it. That's it. No other option. You have to delete this and recreate it. You can also create an additional access key if you want. Yeah. If you click on this, you again get one more access key, but you have to download this once again. Okay. If you don't download it, then you won't be able to use it. Okay, you can download it, or you can copy paste this into your secrets wherever you're maintaining your secrets. Okay, just click on close. I don't want that. Okay, let me just go ahead and delete the second one. I just don't need that. I'll delete it. Yeah. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign out and sign in. Okay, let me just sign out. I'm going to come back into AWS Management Console. Yeah, this is basically your account ID or the account alias, right? In the IAM homepage, I showed you a way to change the alias, right? Instead of account ID, it can be your name if it is available, because this is a subdomain, right? So if it is available, it's a CNAME, right? The CNAME has to be unique across the world in the DNS from a DNS standpoint. So it has to be available. So if it's available, you will get it. Otherwise, you won't get it. Sysadmin, okay, and then password will be hard password. Yeah, So I've actually logged in, right, as sysadmin at RPL. Okay, and since I'm an administrator, I can perform administration actions. Okay, I can perform certain administrative privileges on the AWS resources, like going ahead and creating an EC2 instance, deleting an EC2 instance, right? Whatever an administrator can perform, I can perform those functions. Okay, so this way you can go ahead and create IAM users. Okay, you can create IAM permissions to that, but I'm going to just switch back to my original account for a while. Yeah, for my original account, I have a multi-factor authentication enabled. I need to give the code. So then it logs in. That's an additional layer of security I have. So now let's see, how do we enable multi-factor authentication for the newly created account? Newly created IAM user, not account, sorry. So I'm going to IAM users. I have sysadmin as the IAM user, right? I go to security credentials. Out here you have assigned Mfa device, right? You can just click on this manage, and you can use any of these virtual Mfa device or UTF security key other. Then click on continue. So once you click on continue, you get the QR code. This is the QR code. So use your Google Authenticator app, scan the QR code. Immediately you will get a number, a 6-digit random number. Enter that random number, first random number here. Wait for 1 minute. Wait for the random number on your mobile screen to change. And then enter the second number here. And then say assign MFA. Then you would actually get the MFA assigned to this particular user. Okay, so that's how you assign an MFA for this user. And if you want to, anytime you want to go change the permissions for this user, you can just go here and change permissions. Right now, the user has got a administrator access, right? So what is the permissions that the administrator access got? Let's see. Again, this is an inbuilt policy which is managed by AWS, right? I'll just go to the policies. So if you go to policies and if you go to the JSON, if you see administrator has got allow access on all actions and all resources, star. Okay, allow access on all actions and all resources. Okay, so that's what administrator, this is the administrator access. Yeah, so it has allow action on star. So that is what is applied here, right? That's the administrator access, right? Today, as part of your assignment, I want you to do a couple of things. Okay, I want you to do certain tutorials. Okay. So if you go to the, I'm going to give you these links and you're going to do these tutorials. These are quite useful. So now, okay. So now I'm basically I'm the super admin, right? I have more privileges than a normal administrator, because this normal administrator, even though they've got action and resource on star, there are certain things that this administrator cannot do. Okay, what are those, right? So now let me just go to my billing dashboard, right? Say for example, I have onboarded a new finance person in my company, in my organization, right? So now the new finance person will need to actually have certain access to billing dashboard, right? Yesterday I showed you about the billing dashboard, correct? So now he wants to open this billing dashboard and he wants to see the details of the bill, right? I mean, if you see, I just provisioned this account last month, right? When we started the course, that's when I provisioned this account. And this is basically the last month's bill, right? In fact, I've incurred about $7.98, 591 rupees, right? So now if you see, this is basically, what my finance person would need to, my finance officer has to basically look at it, and then he's responsible to clear the invoices, and also he's responsible to manage the finances for the specific account, right? So now I want to basically give this access to my user. the new user, the sysadmin that I have created just now, right? So let me log out and sign in as sysadmin. I'm just going to sign in as sysadmin. Go to management console. Sysadmin JRDP. Hard password. I'm here. I'll just click on this. I'll go to my billing dashboard. Okay, and basically I want to allow my user to look at all of this, and he wants to be able to do this, and he also wants to be able to view certain things, right? So now, but at the same time, I don't want my finance administrator to have access to other resources such as EC2, right? It doesn't bother him, correct? For him, he doesn't have any business with technical things such as launching an instance, modifying an instance, deleting an instance, and things like that, right? So I want to restrict my sysadmin um, to use only finance. Okay, instead, let's keep the word sysadmin aside. Okay, let's create a new user called finance admin. That will be much more easier because sysadmin, by the name of it, it can do sysadministration activities, right? So let's just go back, switch to my RPL admin user, my original user, and let's actually create a new user called finance admin. That's what this tutorial allows you to do, right? You're in fact going to do this tutorial today. Let's just follow these steps. It will be very helpful. Let me just give the MFA. So, yeah. Okay. So I'll go to IAM. I'm now RPL admin. Okay, I'm going to users. I'm going to add a user saying. Okay, so what does this say? It says create a user, finance manager. Okay, and a group is also billing full access group, right? Finance manager, finance user. Let's create the same thing, right? Let's first create a thing called finance manager. So this is the username. Okay, I'll just give only console access because finance manager, why does he have to use a CLI or an SDK, right? He only wants to see the, I'll give the same password here. H hard password. I won't allow him to change it. Only console access. I'll just say next. Don't save. I'll not add anything for now. Just let me come back. Key's name is finance manager is the username. Review and create the user. The user has no permissions, which is fine. I'm going to give some permissions to the user. Close. Okay, so now I'm going to go create a group named billing full access group. Create a new use group called billing full access group. Next step. Okay, so out here, what I'm going to give is I'm going to assign a policy, okay, to the user saying billing, which is already there. Okay, it's a Amazon's managed policy, AWS. Okay, once again, let's review this policy. I'll just show you the policy. Let's go to the policy first. I'm just going to say billing. Okay, so if you see billing, there are two policies that are there, right? So one is AWS managed policy, the other one is job function. I mean, these two are managed by AWS. I created this last time for something, but I'm not going to use this. But what we'll do is we'll just look at billing read-only access. So if you see, I want my finance manager to just read only on the billing, right? The billing data, right? I don't want him to do anything else, right? So what it does is it allows on an action called AWS portal : view billing on all resources as part of this view billing. So that's what this policy does. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go create a group called billing full access group. Next step, I'll just give billing, AWS read only billing. I'll also quickly review the other policy which is there. Okay, it grants permissions for billing and cost management. This includes viewing account usage and viewing and modifying budgets and payment methods. Okay, so let me give both billing and AWS billing and this one. Next, I'll just say create group. Okay, I've created the group. Let me just go to users. I have finance manager. I'll just click on finance manager. I'll go to groups. I'll add the user to the billing full access group. I'll just say add it to the group. So now my user finance manager is part of the billing full access group. Okay, so I've created that. So now let me just sign out. Just sign back in with billing full access finance manager as the user. Finance manager, hard password. Yeah, so I'm here. I'll just go click on my billing dashboard. Yeah, so on my dash, if I go to my billing dashboard, I can see the bills. I can see the previous bills, the past bills. October bill, I'm able to see whatever $798, and I can do other settings. I can just go to billing preferences. Yeah, I can change the billing preferences. I can change the payment methods. I can change the consolidated billing. I can do so many other things, right? I can just go create budgets, right? And I can say go to Cost Explorer. I can launch Cost Explorer. I can do many things out here, right? Okay, so now let me just go to EC2 and let me see if I have access to EC2. No, see this? It throws an error even on the home page. It says API error because I don't have access. I'll just click on run instances. I'll just go and say launch instance. I'll just say select. See, it's not even taking me to the next page. It says you're not authorized to perform this operation. Right? It can be for any service. You can just go to any service. EC2 S3. I'll just go to S3. Yeah, you don't have permissions to list buckets. Okay, and I go to say IAM. IAM is also service, right? Let's see whether it allows an IAM. No, we encountered the following errors. You're not authorized to perform, not authorized to perform, not authorized to perform. Go to any service. I'm going to CloudTrail. Yeah, not authorized to perform. Okay. The only service where I can have access is the cost. My billing dashboard. That's the only place where I can have access. Okay, so that's how you restrict the permissions. And what we have done here is, okay, now before that, what you have to do is, if you have to follow this tutorial in your accounts, okay, what you guys need to do is you first need to follow the steps out here. First, activate access to the billing data on your test account. I'm just going to sign out here, sign back in. I'll show you a couple of more examples on EC2 also. Okay, I'm just going back to IAM. Okay, so now here what is asking you to do is, you have to follow this first step and then create the IAM policies and then attach the billing policy to your group and test the billing console, right? So that's what we have done now. But for that, first you have to activate the access to billing data on your AWS test account, right? How you do that? Follow this article. It'll tell you how to activate your billing in your, yeah. So here, if you go here, just go to policies. Okay, access to is controlled by activate IAM access. If you want to activate the billing and cost management for all linked accounts in your org, do so by selecting IAM from your root account. Once IAM is activated, okay, so finish step 1. I'm now going to my step 2. I'm going to log out. See, this is the situation where you need to use your root account. Okay, you may understand, you may ask, then what is the use of root account? So these are the certain privileges that root account has got. Okay, do you understand that? So that's when you have to keep root account very safe. Okay, even though it's possible to create a IAM user and give admin access to IAM users, you won't be able to still see billing information, right? Even though the user is admin, right? These are certain things that you need to understand, which is possible by root. Okay. Okay, I'm here. I'm just going to IAM. And then I'm going to create the second step, right? Second step is create custom policies that grant both view and full access permissions to the pages within the billing and cost management console. To create IAM policies that grant permission, sign into the AWS as a user with administrator credentials, and there to adhere to IAM best practices, don't sign in with your root user credentials, right? So, okay, the first thing that I want all of you to do is, once you log in as root, okay, you have to go to users, create a user for yourself, something like this. Like I've created an RPL admin, right? Create a user like this for yourself with the password, okay, with an access key like this. Okay, select both, create password and create access key. Okay, and then give a password, give a permission to it. Give the permission as administrator access. Okay, give the permission as administrator access so that you can use that as an administrator account. Don't use your root credentials every time. Okay, it's not suggested. Do this, but that's what I'm doing. I'm following the best practice out here, right? So don't follow this thing. So that's what this says. Don't sign in with your root user credentials. Use your administrator credentials. You have to create an user. You have to first go to your root. You have to create an administrator credentials and use that going forward. Then open the IAM console. The navigation pane, choose policies, and then create. Click on create policy. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Let me just delete this. I'll delete all of it. I'll just delete all these users. I'll do it from fresh. Let's delete. I don't need any of those. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to. Okay, somebody has to go on mute, please. Okay. Go to policies, create a policy. On the visual editor, choose a service to get started. Okay, out here, see, this is basically a visual editor that you get. Or if you want to handwrite your policy, you can also handwrite your policy using a JSON. It's up to you, right? So many times, you will find these JSON policies available out of the box. So you can just go ahead and handwrite it, or you can use this visual editor. So out here, you can first, it'll take you step by step. First, select billing. Type a few characters, you will get billing out here. So once you get billing, what is the next thing that they're asking us to do? Yeah. Sorry, yeah, select billing. Then under this actions, okay, choose select actions and then select the checkbox next to all actions. Yeah, this one. Select this so that it is star, right? AWS-portal : star. It gives all the actions. Okay, so then review policy and then type billing full access. Resources, you don't have to select any resource for this. Okay, here request conditions also you can just leave it. Next, review policy and then say billing full access. Okay, and then give a description. Billing full access to finance manager. Okay, and this is the summary. Then just say create policy. Okay, the entity already exists. Let me first delete that. I'd created it earlier, so I'll just go. Just say billing full access. I'm just gonna delete this. Yeah, just delete it. I'll just say billing full access. I'll say create policy. Okay, billing full access has been created. So just click that. You will see that it has AWS portal star and resources star. Action is star and resource also all the resources you are giving access to it. Okay, next. Okay, I'm not going to create this read-only access. You guys can do that, but I'm only going to create the finance manager user, not the finance user. I'm just showing you an example. You can continue this when you do your lab exercise. Okay, so now attach billing policies to your groups, right? So in the navigation policies, click policies to display the full list of policies available to your AWS accounts, right? And then here, search for, I'm just going here, policies, just type billing. You get billing full access, which you just created. Okay. Choose attach in the identity. So now select that, choose attach. Okay. In the identity, search box, type billing full access group. You would have created the billing group here, right? Prerequisites is create a test account to use with this tutorial. In this account, create 2 users, test users, and 2 test groups as summarized in the following table. You first have to create this and come there. Okay. First create a username called finance manager, then create a billing full access group. Okay, these 2 users you have to create. Okay, right now I've only created one set, one group called billing full access use and one user called finance manager. In fact, I'm yet to create that. I'll come back and create it. You can either do it this way or that way, right? So I'm attaching this policy to billing full access group, and then I'll just say attach policy. Yeah, so it's going to attach this policy to this billing full access group. So I'll just select that billing full access group. I'll just go to permissions. So if you see, I have billing full access. In fact, I'll detach all the other policies. I don't need those. So you should see only billing full access here as part of this billing full access group. But I also have to create a user called finance manager. I'll recreate that user. Finance manager. I'll only give console access. I'll just give hard password. Yeah, hard password. I'll remove this. User must don't save. Next tags. I'm just giving name. Finance manager. Review. Create user. I'm not creating any access key, secret key, right? So I don't need to download it. Just leave it. It's only username, password, right? Okay. So now I go to groups. I go to billing full access group, and then I add users to this group. What user I want to add? I want to add finance manager to this group. I'll just add this user to this group. So yeah, it's added to this group. Okay, so that's what you have done in step 3. You have created a billing full access and billing full access group, and you've added that user to that group. Last one is just test the access to the billing console. Okay, sign in as that account manager, right? And then you can access the billing dashboard. Okay, I'll use a different browser so that I don't have to log in again. Cookies will be a problem. I'll just go to incognito. Just say sssrpl dot signin dot aws dot amazon.com. Just go to the management console, and I'll use my new user which I created, which is finance manager. Okay, finance manager, hard password, sign in. I've signed in. Go to here, go to my billing dashboard. Yeah, I can see my bills. Let me go elsewhere. Let me go to EC2. No, I can't access EC2. Okay. Okay, so that's what we have done. So we have completed this delegate access to the billing console. So quick recap. So what have we done? We created a group called billing full access group. We created a user called finance manager, which has only console access, no programmatic access. Then what we did was we created a policy called billing full access. Okay, and then we selected using the visual editor, allow all access to the billing portal. Okay, so then we attach the policy to the group, right? It's attached to this group. If you see here, permissions are attached to the group, not to the user directly, and the user got added to the group. So that way it is inheriting the group's permissions. If I go to the user, my user has inherited the permission from billing full access group. It has inherited this policy from my group. So if I just change the policy, my user will also get impacted in the group. Okay, and then I added it and I logged in using my AWS credentials. It's not able to access other things, and it can only access just my billing. So now, for example, I want to add EC2 to this, right? only for this user, right? I mean, for example, only for this user, I don't want to touch the group. For my group, whoever is there as part of my billing full access group only gets billing access, right? But for specifically for finance manager would like to also see the EC2 instances, right? So if I want to give only privileges to EC2 instances to my finance manager, I go to the finance manager and then I add permissions. I can add a permission to this directly also to the user also. Okay, at the end of the day, it's basically takes a union. So I can attach existing policies directly to this. I'll just say EC2 full access. I'll just give full access to my EC2 or read-only access to my EC2. Either of this that I can give. I'll just give full access. Next, I've added my permission. So if you see, my user finance manager has got billing full access, which is coming from the group, and it has a managed policy attached directly to my user, to this finance manager user. So that way, he's able to access EC2. Okay, so now I'll just go back. I'll refresh my page. See, I'm able to access EC2. Earlier I had errors, but now I don't have any errors. I can access EC2. I can launch an EC2 instance. Being as a finance manager, I can launch EC2 instances. Yeah, see, it's able to list it. Earlier it was not even able to list it, right? Now let's do one more thing. Let's add one more user called finance. What is the other user? It was called finance user. Okay, let me add this user called finance user. Only AWS console access. Give the same password. HARDP@SSW0RD. Don't change it. Next, permissions. So here in permissions, I'm adding the user to my billing full access group. Okay. Name finance user. Next, review, create user. Close. Okay, I've added a finance user. So let me just quickly review the finance user. My finance user has got only the inherited access from the billing full access group. Okay, whereas my finance manager has got both inherited permissions plus a direct policy which was attached to my finance manager group, finance manager user. Okay, so now if I actually log out and log in out here as a finance user, I won't have EC2 access to this. Okay, I'll only have billing access to my finance user. Okay, like finance manager has got billing and EC2, right? Whereas if I log in as finance user, my finance user won't have that. Let's check that quickly. Finance user JRDP@S. Okay, this is my finance user. Finance user has got billing dashboard access. Yeah, absolutely. Let me go to EC2. He will not have EC2 access because even though both finance manager and finance user are part of the same group, my finance manager has got a special privilege where he has a policy attached directly to him. Okay, it can be a temporary thing. Okay, I can actually delete this. The moment I delete this, he will lose EC2 full access. If you want, you can just give it to him for temporary for some time. But once you revoke that policy, he is back to his square one. He goes back to his finance billing full access group. He won't have access to EC2 or other services. Okay, so that's how interesting it is, where you can actually do this tutorial. Skip this for now. Okay, you don't have to do this for now. Skip this. Skip the second one. Okay, I'll give you one more tutorial for you too. Yeah, you can also do this, create and attach your first customer managed policy, where in this tutorial, you use the AWS Management Console to create a customer managed policy, then attach that policy to an IAM user in your AWS account. In fact, we have done this, right? What we did just now was basically to, yes, in this case, if you see, you're only giving certain permissions to the user, okay? But rather, what we will do this time is we will do it slightly differently. Yeah, if you want, you can do this. That's okay. You can follow this, but we've already covered that in the first section. So now what I want to do is let's do something called roles. Roles are quite interesting, right? So roles are very, very important. Roles are quite interesting. Okay, let's do one more thing. Okay. Before I switch to roles, I want to actually show you how the policy evaluation works in AWS, right? In AWS IAM. So now I've got policies called billing policy, right? Where I've created a billing policy and I've got billing read-only access and things like that, right? Let me just go back to my users. I've got finance manager, finance user. Finance manager has got a permission called billing full access, right? Yeah, so billing full access is the policy that he has, right? Okay, so now here, I'm going to fiddle around with this a little more, okay? So now I'm logged in as a finance manager. Let me log out and log in as finance manager. I'm going to show you how powerful deny is. Even though it's allowed, deny takes the preference. Okay. I'm going to billing dashboard, right? I've got access to the billing dashboard, right? Because I've got access to the billing dashboard through the virtue of this one. Effect is allow, resources star. Okay. So now let me do one thing. Let me get a little more adventurous. So now this is a managed policy, right? I'm actually going to change the managed policy because this is the managed policy which is attached to my user group. Billing access group has got this managed policy, right? And then my user finance manager is part of a group called billing full access group. So that's how it's first the group has got the subset of users, and group you can attach policies at a group level or at a user level also. Okay, if you attach it at a group level, it inherits from the group. If you attach it directly to the user, it takes it directly, it gets attached directly to the user. Okay, that's the difference out there, right? So but at the end of the day, you can play around with policies. I'm just going to say billing. This is my policy that I created, right? This is a customer managed policy. This is an AWS managed policy. I can't edit AWS managed policy. You never get an edit option for my AWS managed policy, but you can click on billing full access. You get this edit policy button next to the JSON. Okay, I'll just go ahead and edit this policy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, I'll just go to JSON, right? Because that's more useful, right? I mean, here I have access. I just showed you I have access. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and then I'm going to copy paste this statement. Okay. And then I'm going to say comma. You can create more like this. Okay. You can just edit this and you can just say comma. Okay. Just going to say, instead of allow, I'm just going to say deny. The same. Action is the same. Resource is the same. Action is the same. Resources is the same. But here I have both allow and deny. Okay. Let me just say review policy. Okay, statement IDs are unique. I'll just give some one here. Okay, I'll just say review policy. Yeah, I've just reviewed the policy. I'll just say save changes. Okay, in my save changes, I have both allow and deny, right? So now let me just go back and then refresh my page here. Oh, see, you lost permissions. Okay, it says you don't have permissions to access the billing information for this account. Contact your AWS administrator if you need help. What did we do? I mean, we gave allow and we also gave deny, right? So always remember, deny takes precedence over allow. If there is an explicit deny, okay, because I've put an explicit deny to my AWS policy, to the IAM policy. I've put an explicit deny, irrespective of whether I give an explicit allow, my explicit deny always takes the first preference. Okay, so there is a way in which your policy will get evaluated. Okay, I'll just show you how it gets evaluated. Okay, just ignore all of the right side for the time being, right? In fact, I'll not even show you those. We'll get confused. Okay, so now if you see, first, the way IAM evaluation logic works, it always starts with deny. Okay, by default, everything is denied. You have to explicitly allow things. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Everything is denied. You want to see how it works? I'll show you a small demo, right? I've got user. I've got finance manager user, right? So let me actually go back to my policy. I'll just say billing policy, billing full access. I'll just remove the deny thing out here so that I'll just remove the deny thing. I have to remove it along with the comma. I just removed it. I'll just save it. Review policy, save changes. I'll just go back to my console as finance manager, and then I will refresh it. Yeah, when I refresh it, I get, okay, because I'm not denying anything, right? I'm only allowing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that user. Okay, it's a finance manager, right? I'm part of this group, correct? So I'll actually remove it from the group. I'll remove the user from the group. So right now it's just an empty user. The user doesn't have any permissions, right? Because he's not part of a group. Neither is he part of a group, nor he has any permissions attached to it directly, right? So let me just go back and refresh it. No, user has no permissions to do anything. So which means it's denied by default. If I go to EC2, you can go to any service. It's just an empty user. User can't do anything. Okay, it's a complete. It'll have access denied everywhere. Okay, so by default everything is denied. Okay, so by default everything is denied. So the decision starts with the deny. So then it goes and it starts evaluating all the applicable policies that the user has got. And the first thing that when it evaluates the policies, it first looks at, is there an explicit deny in the user or not? First thing, what it does is it checks whether there is an explicit deny in the user or not. Okay, if there is an explicit deny, final decision is deny, because the user has an explicit deny to perform that particular action. That's how, if you see, when we did, if I go back to my this thing, I'll add the user back to the group. I'll put the user back to the group, billing full access group. I'll add the user back to the group. Yeah, is added back to the group. So now if I go back and refresh, you should be able to access the billing dashboard. Yeah, he's able to access the billing dashboard, right? But what I did was I went to the policy and then I modified the policy such a way that I gave explicit deny. Okay, I'll edit the policy here. Go to the JSON. I'll just say, just put a comma here. And I'll say Visual Editor 1 and explicit deny. Review policy. Save changes. Okay, so if you see the policy is, it says there is an explicit deny. So what happens is this portion of the policy gets evaluated. This decision becomes true. Is there an explicit deny? Yes. Then final decision is denied. It doesn't even see, is there an allow? It doesn't even go to this path. Is there an allow? No, it doesn't even go there. It simply stops here where it, is there an explicit deny? Yes, there is an explicit deny. So it denies it by default. It doesn't even give any consideration. Okay. Okay. So now next, let's assume there is no explicit deny here. Okay, so now since there's an explicit deny, if I refresh this page, it won't allow. You don't need permissions. Okay. So now let me go back, edit this policy. Let me remove the explicit deny. Okay, I've removed the explicit deny. I'll just review the policy, save changes. I've removed the explicit deny. I'll go back, refresh it. It'll take a while to kind of reflect. Yeah. So now I have access to this, right? Okay. Good, cool. So now I've come here. I've removed the explicit deny. There's no explicit deny, so it goes to the no path. In the no, then it asks, does the requested resource have a resource-based policy? Yes. Yeah, it's a resource-based policy, correct? It checks whether it has a resource-based policy. Yes. Then what it does, there is a resource-based policy. So then what it does, it goes back. Is there an allow? Is there an allow here? Yes, there is an allow here. Correct? There's an allow. Indeed, there is an allow. Okay. Yes. Then final decision is to allow. It's a green. That is how resource-based policies work. Forget about the other things, organizational recipes, they're all advanced topics. For now, you guys understand that in a resource-based policies, the explicit deny takes precedence over explicit allow. By default, everything is denied. Okay. If you can allow, but if you can override all the allows using an explicit deny. You can put any number of allows, allow. But if you put one single explicit deny, where you say deny star, then everything gets denied. Okay, I'll show you one more example out here. I'm just going to edit this policy. I'll add additional permissions, probably for EC2. Okay, I'll just give EC2. I'll give all actions in EC2. Okay, I'll just say review policy. So I've just given EC2 full access to. Okay, let me do JSON only. Okay, I'm just going to say, I'll give two more, like maybe Visual Editor 1. It's just a name that you're giving. That's it. Allow EC2. EC2 star S3 star. Okay, you're giving access to three things: one to EC2, one to S3. Yeah, you're giving EC2 billing, EC2, and S3. You're given access to all these three. Delete all of this. Yeah. So I've just given EC2, S3, and AWS portal. So these are the three policies that have three permissions that I've given. So let me go back to my console. So I should be able to access EC2 because I've given access. Okay, I should be able to access S3. Yeah, I can access S3. Okay, so now let me come back and then let me override all of this. I'm going to override all of this with a explicit deny on all these, right? I've given all allow, correct? Now let me just go and let me override all of this using a deny on ***. Deny everything, don't allow anything, just deny everything. I'll just say review policy, save changes. Yeah, deny is applied here. Yeah, so if you just go to the policy summary also, you will see that yeah. So now let me just go refresh. Yeah, you don't have permissions. So you don't have permissions. I'll go to EC2. All API error. I'll go to billing. Complete. Okay, so now this will be a powerful feature, right? So if you want to basically override anything, right? Always the override is an explicit deny, which overrides anything and everything. Okay, it's like the veto power. It's like the Supreme Court. Okay, these are all like high courts of the various different states and cities, right? These are all like high courts. Even though the high court may allow, if the Supreme Court denies, it is denied. Okay, so deny is the ultimate authority in IAM. Okay, so always remember that. Okay, remember that because this is an interview question. When you go for interviews in IAM, they will ask you, I have such and such a policy. I have both an allow and deny. They'll ask you which takes precedence. And you can confidently say that deny always takes the precedence. It's deny which denies everything. Okay, and you give this thing to, I'll give you this later. You can say that it starts with the deny, it evaluates all the policies. Is there an explicit deny? Yes, then it goes, denies it. No, then it goes and, checks whether the resource-based policy, is there an allow? Then it allows. If there is no allow, it does not allow. Okay, so that's the power of IAM, right? And so that's how you basically go ahead and deal with IAM, right? You also have ABAC, attribute-based access control, right? I mean, where you can set up attributes. Anyways, these are advanced topics, so I don't want you to kind of get muddled with so many topics. And this MFA also, you can do this tutorial, enable users to manage their credentials and MFA settings. In fact, all of you have done the MFA part yesterday and today also, so you can do that. But one last thing that I want to cover today is, before we close, is the roles. Okay, roles. Again, roles are a special type of entities, okay, which you can apply to EC2 instances also, right? Or you can use roles for any principal to assume that role. Okay, you can basically assign a role and you can assume any principal to assume a specific role. Okay, so now that's how roles will be quite useful. Okay, so now when you actually create a role, you say that select a type of trusted entity. It can be either an AWS service, or it can be another AWS account, or it can be a web identity or a SAML federation. Okay, so now let's assume there are so many AWS services, right? EC2, S3, Lambda, DynamoDB, VPC, Okay, so many AWS services are there, right? Now, within these AWS services, if one AWS service needs to call another AWS service, so that AWS service needs a principal, right? And that principal would need to be allowed on the other AWS service to be accessed, right? Because at the end of the day, when the IAM comes and checks the permissions, it won't have access to that, right? So now that is where roles are quite important, where you create a role, right? And then you assign a role to a specific AWS service. Let's say, for example, EC2 is there, right? EC2 would like to call S3. Okay, so now in this case, when EC2 needs to call S3, you need to basically assign a role to the EC2 instance, saying that EC2 instance can actually call S3 on so and so buckets, right? You can, that's when, roles will be quite useful. So here you select either, that is one use case. The other use case is you have multiple accounts, you have multiple AWS accounts, right? And you want to actually have cross account access given to users or given to services, right? So for example, I'm having an AWS account where I'm running EC2 instances. And similarly, I have one more AWS account where I have got S3 running. Okay. So now I want my EC2 instance to talk to S3, but this is cross account, right? Because imagine always ARN has the account in it, correct? One of the parameter in ARN is account. So now this is cross account, the principles are changing. So in this case, you want account 1 to talk to account 2, account 1 EC2 instance to talk to account 2 S3 bucket. So this is when you basically give cross account access. Okay, you create a role and you give cross account access and you say that EC2 instance from that account will be able to talk to the S3 in this account. Okay, so that's where you have another account, or it can be a web identity. Here in this another AWS account, you can give the account ID, right? Or web identity. It can be a third-party web identity provider like Cognito or any OpenID provider. OpenID is again an open identity. It's a open framework, open standards to federate identities from multiple other sources. Or it can be a SAML 2.0. What is SAML? How many of you know what a SAML is? If you have read about it. SAML is something called security assertive markup language, right? So now SAML is a very, very common protocol that is being used to federate identities across multiple different providers, right? For example, you don't need, for example, you have a lot of websites where you use Google and Facebook to sign in, correct? So that's all happening through SAML, where it's taking you through a single sign-on experience through SAML, where you have your account created with Google or Facebook. Using that account, you are giving access a specific service, and you do a single sign-on. You don't need a specific account to be created in that third-party service. So that's called SAML federation. Okay. Anyways, I mean, these are advanced topics. So when you select AWS service, you select which service, which you want to create a role with, right? And you can actually use EC2 or Lambda or any other service like API gateway, backup. So many services are. These are all the services that supports EC2, that supports IAM roles, right? Let me just select EC2, right? And then when I select EC2, I get so many use cases out here. So now just click on EC2. So allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf, right? You are basically granting permissions to the EC2 instance, that you have provisioned to call other AWS services on your behalf. Okay, it's like a temporary thing that you're giving. Okay, you're basically delegating your access to someone, right? Like, let me take this example there. Okay, I'm working in an office, right? I'm basically the general manager of a company, right? And as a general manager, I've got privileges to take certain actions, correct? To deliver certain roles. So now I have to go on a emergency leave for 1 month. I have to grant permissions to the DGM, the deputy general manager, so that he can step in on my behalf and he can perform actions on my behalf. Okay, so it's like this, right? So where I am the user, I'm giving EC2 permissions to call AWS services on my behalf, right? So that's what it means, right? So just click on next permissions. Then you can actually permission policies. You can attach any permission policies, right? Such as I want my EC2 instance to call Lambda function, or call an S3 or use S3. So I'll just say give full S3 access, and then say next, review, and then you have to create a role, right? EC2 instance calling S3. Okay, allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. What permissions you are giving to the EC2 instance? To call your S3 full access. Then I'll just say create role. Okay, and that role is created. If you see, that role is created, EC2 instance calling S3. Okay, so now if I provision a new EC2 instance, and then if I attach this role to the EC2 instance, I'll be able to call S3 using my EC2 instance. Okay, we will see that in the next session. Okay, I'll show you a small demo of it. You will be able to, in fact, that's part of our subsequent sessions. Okay, but right now for you from an IAM perspective, remember that IAM roles are a secure way to grant permissions to entities that you trust. That's all you need to understand for now, because I'm going to show you this, how you can use instance profiles. It's called EC2 instance profiles, where you attach an IAM role to the EC2 instance profile, and your EC2 instance would be able to call functions on your behalf for the permissions that you have specified. Okay, like the one that we just created. Okay, where if you go back to the roles, you will see that AWS trusted entities. In this case, I'm only trusting EC2 to call S3 on my behalf. Okay, and you can create multiple types of services. Okay, like in this case, trusted advisor. Okay, this is for a service called trusted advisor, where it's a service policy for the trusted advisor. Okay, so don't worry too much about this. We are going to do a lab session down the line. It's part of the curriculum. It's part of the planned sessions for the subsequent days. But for now, all I want you to do is, the assignment for today is assignment for 6th November is IAM. Okay, I want all of you to read read through this documentation very well. Number one. Number two, yeah, I want you to read this also, this policy evaluation logic. Okay, so first is allowed or not. Okay, so don't get bogged down by the rest of it here. I mean, look at only deny evaluation and resource-based policies. Ignore organization SCPs, permission boundaries, session policies, and all of that. Okay, you can ignore this for now because I have not taught you organization SCPs. Okay, so ignore this and take this line directly here. Look at the first box, second box, first swim lane and the second swim lane. Oh, sorry, third, not the second. Ignore the second one. First swim lane and the third swim lane. Read only the first and third swim lanes in this flow chart. Okay. Assignment for 6th November is IAM users. Okay, step 1 is first create an IAM user using your root credentials. Root user credentials. Navigate to IAM. Create an IAM user called RPL admin. So that will be your user, okay? RPL admin user. Give programmatic access. Give a custom password, something, okay, give any password here, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a specific thing, just give any password here and remove this. You have to create this. I'll just paste it. Okay. Third step. Just doing something. Yeah, next, when it comes to permissions, attach existing policies directly. Click next, permissions, attach existing policies directly, and then search for administrator access. Yeah, this is the administrator account. Select it. Select administrator access. And then click on next tags, give a tag, review, and then create user. Review and create user. The last page, download the credentials CSV. Okay, have to download the credential CSV and store it in a secure location. Just download it, save this, yeah, store it, click on close. So you're done. Okay, so then RPL admin 1 is created. Go back to users, click on RPL admin user. Navigate security credentials and assign an Mfa device. Okay, manage, click on manage Mfa device. Assign Mfa by clicking manage next to assigned Mfa device. Okay. Then virtual Mfa device, select virtual Mfa, continue, yeah, and then use your Google Authenticator. Show QR code and use your Google Authenticator. Open Google Authenticator. And follow the steps to assign the Mfa to RPL admin user. Okay, that's needed. So don't worry, I'm going to delete this. So QR code is safe. I'm not going to give the QR code to anybody. Okay, that's done. I'm gonna go ahead and delete my RPL admin. So delete, yes. Go ahead, delete it. Yeah. So going forward, you are going to use only RPL admin IAM user and not the root credentials. Okay, this does not apply to students who have accounts provisioned by us. Okay, don't worry, this does not apply to you. You already have an IAM user which has limited access. Okay, so this is only for those who have created your own accounts and who are using your root credentials to log in. So don't log in using root credentials. Once you have done with it, then log in using RPL admin, complete the following assignments. What you have to complete? You have to complete tutorial. Yeah, complete this tutorial. Tutorial 1. Yeah, complete this tutorial. Okay, I'm going to give you this. I'll put this in the chat. Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So I've just given the assignment. So please go through this assignment. It's very important that you guys complete the assignment so that you can come back next week and we can actually start with S3 on Monday. We've completed IAM roles. When I have a specific session sometime down the line to use IAM roles as part of your subsequent labs. Okay, I'll show you. But for now, you just have to complete this exercise. Read more about IAM because IAM is a very, very important topic. Okay, come back on Monday. Let's start with S3 on Monday. Okay, got it. So any doubts or any questions? Maybe you complete your assignments today, and maybe we can spend some time on Monday, either before the class, after the class, on this IAM topic. Okay, and all the best for tomorrow for your presentations. Okay, and prepare well for that, and wish you good luck. Thank you. And Sairam, have a good day. Have a good weekend as well. Okay,
Sure.
brother Sai Krishna, Ravi, over to you.
Thank you, Anna Sairam. Yeah, we'll be opening breakout rooms in a second.
Okay, thank you. Thanks all. Have a good day once again. Sairam.
Sairam, Anna, bye.
Sairam. Oh, one quick question, Sai Krishna. So are we putting all the assignments, the documents that I'm giving in some common folder, right? Every day they're being uploaded?
Actually, it's been, students are downloading it on Flyer now.
On the chat. Okay,
yeah, on the chat, and we are also storing it in our end. So if they need it, we are sharing with them.
Okay, sure. Because by mistake, what I'm doing is I'm kind of overwriting some of the
We
assignment
do have
document?
copies, Anna. We have copies.